Hi everyone. My name is Momo. I'm a producer based in Tokyo. I'm a moderator for today's talk show. So let me introduce Emily Adams Body Ajra, the designer behind Body. So let me introduce the brand quickly. So Body is a New York-based brand that has been growing attention for its unique sensibility, including here in Korea. I'm sure there's so many fans of Body here in this audience. So Emily, could you introduce your brand?
Well, thank you guys for being here today, and thank you, Momo. Yeah, I started in 2016, and at the time I was working a million different jobs. I had just graduated in philosophy and fashion design, so much like this festival, I was kind of toying with this idea of, both fashion, design, aesthetics, and, kind of nourishing my mind with philosophy. And I knew that I wanted to create a brand that had a certain sentimentality and something that really honored where we came from and our histories and our family histories.
Right.
So around that time, I was working out of my apartment, which was a 6th-floor walk-up in the Lower East Side. I was taking appointments with GQ on my bed. It was like a total disaster, but it was so magical. Everything that I was making, I was selling. So it was very different than everything
Right.
that was happening in fashion in that year.
Right, so you started your brand in 2016, and you did a first presentation in New York in 2017 as the very first female designer who showed New York Fashion Week men's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool.
So that collection, which we can show, a few images of my very early work, it really, most of the pieces were made from antique textiles. So like I said, I was working in my apartment, cutting on my floor. This whole look, as soon as it sold, that was it. So I really was making, most everything was one of one. I was producing some things in India, some things, later as I got better at reproducing textiles and really honoring the craft through this idea of preservation. I was able to produce, larger runs of things, larger collections.
Yeah, it was very different from the other brand at the time in New York City, because I was also based in New York at the time, and I see a lot of, at the time it was more like a black, edgy, sporty style, like Alexander Wang, type of style, and then at the same time, streetwear was pretty strong globally.
Right.
So yours is pretty different from those, current.
Yeah, the sensibility behind it was, I was born in Atlanta. My parents were from Massachusetts. I grew up antiquing. My mother and her sisters always took me antiquing, and I had accumulated a collection of antique materials. And in college, I even never really wanted to make things out of what you call muslins, like just fabric that was kind of discarded plain cotton. I'd use my antique fabrics that I had collected since I was a kid to make my first prototypes. So that was kind of the origin of it. So there was this idea of like, it was quite feminine for menswear. I had more of a, thinking about the customer and this person as somebody other than myself. So I was designing for these guys that I loved, like my boyfriend at the time, who I'm now married to. And, I was really thinking about how I could make something for this guy who I called like a mother's son. So it was quite feminine, and there was almost this like sense of emotion that I really wanted to capture in the clothes, this value of like an emotive quality that was really intrinsic to the fabric. So you felt something when you wore them.
Yeah, I think you brought the new value to like kind of against like consumerism and like quick pace of the fashion scene. And then you also show the runway show in Paris in 2020.
Yeah, so all of my collections are founded on personal narratives and these historical techniques that were maybe in the era in which the person lived. So this collection was about a narrative that was actually a family narrative of mine that I had done research on. My family, many generations ago were wagon builders for Barnum and Bailey Circus. So this collection focused on that craft in these old workshops that they were building these circus wagons. So there was a playfulness to it, a lot of hand-drawn illustrations and this technique that came from these beautiful tableaus of wagons that they had been building in the 1800s in America.
And also you launched the Body Rec, which is kind of new type of athletic wear, right? And it's also very different from conventional athletic wear. So could you tell us about the concept behind it?
Yeah, the concept behind Bodhi Recreation really revolves around this idea that we were making everything that you'd find in your gym bag. So you would take your bag, or let's say your locker, open it up, and what do you have? Because I felt like there was a lot of product that was missing for our clients, like a sneaker. So this was a product that we developed with Nike, and it told the historical narrative around the original turf shoe. So it had this very specific sole that was that had to be made because of the invention of AstroTurf at all of the universities. So I was able to really draw on not only the larger history of athletic wear in America, but more of these kind of like micro stories around AstroTurf, or around the origin of Nike, the company, or maybe around my dad in high school playing football for the first time, in what he was wearing.
Right. Yeah. Usually, when we think about the street, like active athletic wear, it's more like a futuristic or tech fabric and stuff. But you brought like very organic, natural materials and soft direction, which is very unique, I think.
And that's something that I often think about with Bodhi, is how you can still be innovative without being extremely maybe tech focused or like you said, futuristic materials focused. We're still hyper material focused, but how can you utilize materials in an innovative way without solely thinking about maybe the utilitarian aspect for running. I think both are equally important, but for me, what I'm more drawn to is innovation in a slightly different way.
More like a human way,
yeah.
maybe. And then you also did a runway show in New Orleans with Body Rec, which is very unique location and timing as well, because it was
the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl moment.
Yeah, which
So cool.
People hadn't really done shows. Obviously, no one had done a show around the Super Bowl, and that's something. Again, you have to be so. What I'm inspired by is the intention behind things and being really interested in how we can lead the most intentional life. And to do a runway show every season for Bodhi, it doesn't make sense. For me, it doesn't make sense. But to do it around something like a huge sporting event to help tell the narrative of these athletes and to uplift the culture and the history, the materials like these mesh jerseys and the cropped nature of that around the actual event, I thought was incredibly interesting. So this was a show that we were able to do, I guess, off the calendar in a totally different American city.
It's very nice. Oh, and then let's talk about the latest collection you did in Paris. This is all made by miniature dolls,
yes.
right? Yeah.
So I wish I had them here to show you guys, but they're about 1/6 scale. So you can imagine almost like the height of a Barbie, but they're much softer, and they're these beautiful little handmade dolls that our studio made with clothing that is just like the larger collection. So the larger collection informed the miniatures. It wasn't necessarily, the miniatures informing the larger. But what I loved about this was we were able to make the clothes with the same factories and our own team that made the collection that you would see on a runway. And it was all miniature, and we were able to show these beautiful scenes of a camp scene and a theater. This entire collection was a personal narrative around Moose Charlap, who was a composer in the mid-century. He had a very short life, and he wrote the music most notably for Peter Pan on Broadway. He also did a lot of work for Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass on TV. So some of the songs that I knew as a kid, my mom knew as a kid, were written by this man and his co-writers.
It's very beautiful venue. Where was it?
This is in an opera house in Paris, and this is his son, Moose Charlap's son, Bill. And he was able to, it was almost like a lesson. So it was like this beautiful lesson from his son about the history of his father and how it shaped who he was and how it also shaped many American lives.
He's like an uncle of your
Yes.
husband's.
Yes, he's my uncle-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. And let's talk about the inspirations. You know, you just welcomed 2 kids.
Yes.
And then I'm sure it's affect you a lot, you know, inspirational a lot.
Yeah, so I have a 2-year-old and I have a 5-month-old. And especially, I mean, this collection that you just saw on the screens, it kind of really rings true to where I came from. As a kid, in my bedroom, I would make these little vignettes of doll houses, like on every shelf. You know, I'd take all my clothes off, and instead of only playing with my dollhouse, I would expand my dollhouse into my bedroom. So I had little shelves with all the little things, and I think that world building and this idea that you could really do world building as a career was so inspiring to me. You know, I would make everything for my dolls, and that was kind of championed as I was a kid, and my parents did that. So I want to do that for my kids. I've been making a lot of toys for them. I just made them a circus tent using some of the striped fabric from a last collection. And I think that what's so inspiring is that you can really change somebody's imagination or build on their imagination.
Okay, sounds really good. And can we talk about the store? Because your store is always so beautiful, and you always work with your partner, Aaron, who is the founder of Green River Project in New York. How does it work? Like, how do you work together?
So Aaron and I have known each other for 16 years, or we've actually been together ever since we met. and I think that kind of, you know, way of working so intimately together comes from those 16 years. And I think that relationship, his partner that he works with in Green River Project as well, you know, I knew them when I was in college. And so my senior thesis was a constant conversation with Aaron about how I wanted to show the materials that I was working with, where this idea of, you know, family could be tied in, you know, how these materials could really kind of help inform maybe this world that I was trying to build. So some of the stores, if we go back to the first...
The New York show?
Oh, okay, so this is actually our women's store, and this is in Tribeca. The curtains, I'm gonna do a little deep dive now for you guys into some of these stores, but this store, the curtains, you can see these fade marks. It almost looks like tie-dye. And this is actually a bolt of fabric that I had bought from a warehouse or a tailor shop that had closed down. And all of those lines that you see are actually sun fading.
Oh, wow.
So it's like the rotting from nature onto the fabric. And it was a fabric that I, you know, had in my hundreds of stacks of men's tailoring fabrics. This was probably a lining fabric. And Aaron saw it and he was like, this is the most amazing fabric I've ever seen. And you know, that's something at Bodhi that I often like to draw on and think about is these materials that would be discarded. You know, of course, this was a place that would have had to discard them because they had gone out of business. But we come across materials so often in our day-to-day life of things that are just so easily thrown away. And then when you put it in a setting like this, it informs the entire aesthetic.
Yeah.
And it really actually feels quite luxurious, and
Right.
it feels quite expensive, but it actually is rotting fabric, And so what's the next? This is the interiors of the women's store
Tribeca, the same.
in Tribeca. And this space, Erin was very inspired by this woman in France and this space that he had stumbled upon. And all of our stores and my relationship with Erin and what we think about philosophically has to do with the juxtaposition of the private space and the public space, the private life, the public life, and artists like Robert Gober, some author. It's really just kind of, like I said, a constant conversation around how we want our spaces to feel, but really how you feel when you come in to shop. Does it feel like an interior space? Does it feel like a place of education?
It's very unique feeling when we into your store. It's
Yeah.
very,
This is the checkout counter. So we have, smaller objects both for sale and
Nice.
for display. This is the dressing rooms. And the beauty of this, Erin is from India, or his family is from India. And so we work a lot both in producing our collections there, but also thinking about furniture, producing furniture, and bringing in some of that wood from India into these spaces. So these are all of our cabinets. We have mostly women's wear in this store. It's kind of a mix of men's and women's. The hydrangeas that you see in the foreground are actually from our garden in Connecticut. So that's
personal
kind of,
too.
we
Yeah.
still want like a very personal connection to all of our spaces and the way that we live our lives. Outside of the brand, it's so heavily tied to the foundation of the brand too.
Also beautiful blue color here.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
robin's egg blue. Some more furniture that Erin designed and some antique pieces. So the store in Paris is actually our most recent store, and this was open a couple of months ago. Oh, let's see. So around 6 months ago. I actually couldn't go to the opening because I was giving birth. I gave birth early. But this is a space that really has this kind of this narrative that ties an American and European story together. It's inspired by somebody who was a fly fisherman, came from a hotelier family, and went out to the American outdoors to experience what it meant to be, outside of the urban environments in America into a more rural place. So he actually went up to where we live in Connecticut and kind of in that northwestern region and was fly fishing. And there's this really beautiful story of how, he came from this prominent French hotel family, but then had this extreme passion and perfected the making and refurbishing of these fly fishing rods, and this idea of conservation and how that kind of informed his hobby. So conservation of catch and release and fly fishing as we know it today.
Sounds good. Also, I heard the wooden line, it's made by hand.
Oh, yes. Okay, so it's called faux bois. So it's fake wood, and all of the paneling, if you happen to visit Paris, you have to look really close up into I guess what you call like the wood face, and it's actually painted to look like marble, but to look like wood. So it, as I'm sure you guys have all seen fake marble before, but this is fake wood on wood. So it's a really beautiful craft technique that took hours and hours, and that's one thing that we were able, or that Aaron was able to really source and find in Paris are these incredible tradespeople where their entire life revolves around the making of things and the perfecting of something like fake wood, fake marbling.
Hi, Emily.
Oh,
Hi.
hello.
Can I interrupt you just 1 second?
Yeah. Surprise.
I just came up to show your jacket to the people.
Oh, good.
So
My
yeah.
advertiser.
If you wanted better looking man in your jacket. You know.
This will be our campaign photo for the
All right,
next
right,
season.
right. So how's your day?
It's great. I mean, thank you for having us.
Your first time in Seoul, right?
It's my second time in
I'm
Seoul,
sorry. Okay.
but only in the last year because the last time I came, it was I guess right before I got pregnant with my second baby,
okay.
and it's been such a whirlwind.
So I was very impressed when I saw your New York store, then LA store. Actually, I bought it in LA, but amazing to have you here in Seoul.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to see it because, I mean, as much as I can talk through photos, it's like you really get, a certain understanding, or I hope, of the brand when you shop
Sure.
in the store because you can.
It opened up my eyes.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm very honored.
So actually, we had a brunch together in my house this morning. So we are now pretending to see. So you are looking for, place for your body shop here, right? And
That's the goal. We would love to be in Korea.
제 잘못이거든요. 그 에런 남편분하고 저하고 작년부터 이 보디샵 위치를 찾으러 다니는데 저한테 부탁을 했는데 1년 동안 지금 못 찾았어요. 또 부부가 워낙 까다로워가지고 내가 좀 웬만하면 안 되겠니? 그러면 너무 작다, 너무 크다, 이건 소울이 없다, 뭐 이렇게 뭐 다 그래가지고 뭐 하여튼 힘들어요. 그래서
I hope you're saying nice things.
nice, something nice things. Okay.
It's like these people are terrible up here.
Anyway, we love to have you.
Oh, thank you.
And your collection, someday. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you
okay.
for having us. And what I love so much about you wearing this jacket is that it comes from. Oh yeah, here
Yes.
you go. It comes. So much of what I like thinking about and talking about is my own parents' history.
Oh.
And they're both from Massachusetts. This was really heavily inspired by these plaids, from the 70s that they would wear. And I love that you spent time in the same town. that we grew up in.
Right.
It's so cool. And now you have the jacket. So it's full circle
이
moment.
가족이 매사추세츠 울스터라는 도시에서 이렇게 다 자라났는데 그 울스터가 마침 또 제가 첫 직장에서 태어나가지고 처음 월급을 받은 곳이어가지고 so that was my first job in your hometown. So we have something in common.
It's great.
I'm trying.
Yeah. and that you were drawn to this piece naturally in the store.
I intentionally some thought on my pants. Match well with your jacket.
It's perfect.
Okay, I'll be gone. So
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you.
See you tonight. 고맙습니다.
Such a nice surprise.
And well, I'll finish through a few of these, but this is
Oh, is this
yeah,
store
more
in
of the Paris
Yes.
store and
Okay.
the dressing rooms. A lot of these pieces, the furniture and the wood from our spaces comes from government buildings and the Bank of France. I like often to tie. Obviously, Aaron designs these spaces, but it's so collaborative in that I have hundreds of antique textiles that I'll save for very specific things, and some of the fabric that's used in both the Paris store and the store in Tribeca are 1850s chintz fabrics from Paris. This is the seating arrangement of the. I love these chairs. They're made from shirting fabrics that I had again saved. I made one of my friends a shirt out of this fabric, and when Aaron saw it, he was like, please tell me you have more of this fabric. But I only wanted to make this one shirt for my best friend, and anyway, there's 2 chairs now.
Beautiful.
The lobby. More of the women's collection. This is a dollhouse in the Paris store that Aaron found at the flea market, and it has the woman whose dollhouse it was originally has like a beautiful note from the family, and it tells about the house and all of her little rooms that she made and the year that she had it. And we left that note in the dollhouse.
Cool. Yeah. It's such a beautiful store, always. Yeah. And we are maybe waiting for the storing, so happening soon. So let's talk about the, what does luxury mean to you as a last question? Because Body is, defining American luxury brand. So I would like to know what luxury means to you.
I think for me, luxury has everything to do with how long you have something and how long you want to keep it. So it's the most luxurious thing is to have, a purse that belonged to your mother, or even a painting that was your great-grandparents. And my family, I mean, not that they didn't save so much stuff, but it's so precious, the things that I do have. I have a pair of handkerchiefs that I've then done the research on exactly who they belong to, and it's like a great aunt made them 200 years ago or something. And for me, luxury and thinking about clothes and the product we make, it's about utilizing natural materials, historic techniques, constantly thinking about preservation and the preservation of craft and the preservation of narrative, and how it's of utmost importance and value to make things that last, not only for yourself, but for future generations. And to make things that you want to repair, that you spend money to repair.
Right.
That, if your seam rips, you're not like, oh, I'll go buy another, pair of trousers tomorrow. That you have spent so much energy and love, maybe acquiring these, or that they remind you maybe of your grandmother, that you want to go fix them, and you want to tailor them as your size fluctuates, or
Right.
when you pass them on to your wife or to your kid or something like that.
I truly think you highlight new type of luxury and value in the fashion industry. So that's why it's very popular here and there.
Thank you.
Yep.